Well, we got played. We got bamboozled. You can call it the way you want. I was not expecting to wake up to this. So, if you're a bit confused about what's going on, let me give a bit of context here. KAISA is getting buffed in 14.4. That is still happening. But the buff we're getting is a bit different from what we were supposed to get. So yesterday, we got this change. Base HP regen goes up from 3.5 to 3.75. HP regen goes from 0.55 to 0.65. AD per level goes from 2.6 to 3. And finally, the ultimate range goes from 1.5k to 2000. This was great. This was even better than I personally expected. The base HP and health regen buff allows KAISA to survive longer in lane. One of the biggest weaknesses we have right now in Season 14 is that you're facing MF, you're facing Jhin, you're facing Ashe, Caitlyn, Karma, Lux. Even in mid lane, you're facing Wei, Orianna, Azir. You get it. A lot of poke. This buff allows the champion to survive longer and allows you to get your spikes and your first item and second item with more comfort because you don't need to back all the time. The AD per level change allows KAISA to have faster Q evolution, especially on two items, Eclipse and Mana. There we go. And finally, the ultimate change was mostly a quality of life change, just so it's a bit more comfortable to play the champion. There we go. But I guess Riot kinda panicked, and after they saw the reaction that the community had over the buff, not only from KAISA content creators, but also from other content creators that said that this buff was a bit too big, they kinda panicked and they instantly pulled the plug. Went back and removed two of the buff we got, only leaving the ultimate change basically. If you scroll down to the explanation, they're basically saying they're pulling back the buff and just focusing on light power buff, which is this one basically. But whatever. It's still a good change, it's still a nice change. I'm not gonna say it's a horrible change, so I'm gonna cover it. But before the video starts, again, this is no script. My voice might be a bit scuffed, so sorry for my French. I'll try to be as slow as possible so everyone can understand. So let's go. Alright, so the buff we're getting here is a simple buff of 500 range on our ultimates. This is, again, like I said before, it's not going to be the biggest buff, it's not a power buff, it's a small buff just so it's a bit more comfortable to play the lane. If you play in lane, for example, and your jungler or your support engages, now you have more range to engage with your R basically, and kill the enemy. You can catch up to them more faster now. So yeah, that's kind of it. And there you go, that's the buff for you. It's something you will notice when you play your games, and in some situations it won't matter, but it's not the biggest buff. What KAISA really needs was what we lost basically. I think the buff to HP were really good because KAISA really needed this change. I kinda agree that the AD per level buff were a bit strong because of Eclipse and Mana getting a lot of power because of this one change, but I don't think that Riot needed to remove these two changes that I think were really good for the champion. So yeah, it's gonna be a small buff. I don't expect KAISA to change that much. I don't expect a win rate to increase that much. A pick rate will most likely go up, but that's kinda it. There you go. But it's not the only change I need to mention because there are other changes that are happening in 14.4. One of them is the buff to Ludens. This one is not getting changed, thankfully. The ability haste on this item is going from 20 to 25. So if you're playing, Mana KAISA in the top lane or mid lane like I'm doing, you now get 40 haste with Mana and Ludens, which is really nice. Remember, KAISA needs around 55 haste to be comfortable. And with that, 40 already, you can just get the Ionian boots and then go for something like Shadow Flame and boom, you have 55. You can also go for Sorcerer Shoes, and you can go for Crypt Bloom, there we go, and again 55. Or you can also go again for Origin Focus, and now this will give you 60 haste, so even better. And this also applies to, by the way, if you go for Eclipse, because Eclipse KAISA has been getting a bit popular recently. It will give you 60 haste or 55 haste depending on what you build. So yeah, that's a really nice buff for poke KAISA and AP KAISA. Now, the last change I need to mention here is the change to Terminus. this item has been a bit controversial, I would say, in the past since its release in season 14. The biggest issue that this item had, in my personal opinion, is the stack number. So before, on live servers, you would need 10 auto attacks to fully stack Turnus. This was not realistic. In a real fight, there is no way you can actually land 10 auto attacks. It's not that easy, and especially in the early game, where you don't have that much attack speed, it's really difficult to fully stack a Terminus. But now, we go from 5 stack to 3 stack, which means 6 stack needed now. The resist is going a little bit up by, I think, 2 or 3 max. The max and the penetration is not moving. So not only you're getting more armor and MR, but the stack required are now reduced. Only takes you 6 auto attacks, like I said, to fully stack it, which is really good, way more comfortable. And this item, you can now actually get the full value of Terminus way more now. And if you have HOB, by the way, that's half of the stacks already done. So yeah, there we go. Does this mean that Terminus second is back on the meta? Yes and no. I would really only recommend going for Terminus right now if you're facing a Draven, a Samira, if you're facing a Zed mid lane or a Qiyana mid lane. Basically a pretty squishy and explosive enemy team with a lot of assassins, basically, where you can actually get a lot of value from the armor it gives you, since now you can actually get full stack pretty easily. But if you're facing a poke matchup, like for example Caitlyn into Lux, the Terminus second is probably not going to be the best option. It's still better to go for static into RB, for example, for an early Q evolution, or going for Kraken into RB, there we go, or go Kraken Navari, for example, or even go Eclipse. Even going Eclipse is actually more worth it into a poke matchup. And yeah, that's kind of all the changes there is to discuss. Pretty short video, not as long as the other one. By the way, I'll be covering Eclipse on KAISA a bit later in another video, not this one, because this one is mostly focused on changes. And yeah, alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.